Hi, my name is Darren Sher. I'm one of the marketing managers at Jobsite, and I predominantly look after anything to do with mobile and innovation at Jobsite. Probably the best way to start mobile presentation is first of all to look at the general market. How is mobile doing? What is happening in the mobile space? So let's run through a few stats. Firstly, 2 billion mobile phones have been sold globally to date. The first billion took 14 years. The second billion was sold in the last 12 months. So it's clear to see the incredible growth that mobile has seen so far. Now, some interesting stats from Google. Desktop search, believe it or not, is falling 15% year on year. Yet mobile search engine traffic has seen an increase of 247% in the past year. And currently around 7.1 million Brits now access the internet through their mobile phones. So in terms of the mobile space, it's quite clear to see that the usage is high, and that certainly the hardware is really out there. So businesses that have already created a mobile presence, what kind of results are they seeing? Well, eBay currently sell one item every 2 seconds via mobile. 10% of all Paddy Power, the betting site, 10% of their sales come via mobile. Facebook users are said to be twice as active on their mobile phones than on a desktop, and Google's mobile search traffic has increased around 5 times in the past 2 years. So obviously the businesses that are now catering for mobile are seeing some fantastic results. So that's sort of general retail and betting and social network industries. What does it look like for recruitment? Well, the best thing to do is to look at the results Jobsite has seen. Now, Jobsite are really at the forefront of the mobile space. We have an iPhone app, a mobile site, a Windows 7 app, a Vodafone 360 application, and we're soon to launch an Android application. So what have we seen? We're now catering for mobile. What are we getting? Well, over 8% of Jobsite visits come via mobile, which is quite incredible. And just to put this into perspective, this is over double what we currently get from the Yahoo and Bing search engines combined. So it really is a big sort of source of traffic for us mobile. iPhone currently accounts for 50% of Jobsite's mobile traffic and is certainly the leader in the handset that's being used to access our site. But Android is in second place and growing very, very quickly. In fact, in the last 12 months, we've seen a growth of 1,400% on Android. So it's definitely getting there. Mobile traffic has grown almost 400% in the last 12 months, and in the last 2 years in Jobsite has grown over 1,300%. So it's very clear that recruitment is lending itself, or mobile, the platform, lends itself very well to recruitment. So what are people doing on Jobsite mobile? Well, over 10% of mobile visits result in an application. Now this accounts for over 3.5% of all of the applications on our website. The visit to application ratio is higher on mobile than it is on desktop. So people visiting our site via their mobile device are far more likely to apply for a job. 17% of Jobsite candidates check their jobs via email. And mobile traffic tends to be at its highest during the commuting hours and late evening, which is times that we weren't really getting people before. And let's go into a bit of greater detail into that now. So this, just to explain, is essentially the sort of average traffic pattern we have across hours of the day on Jobsite as a whole, the total site. So predominantly this is your sort of the desktop traffic pattern, and I'm sure would be a very sort of common pattern across the whole recruitment industry. So it's sort of quiet in the morning around commuting hours, and sort of peaks around sort of 11 o'clock in the afternoon, and then sort of tails off towards the end of the evening. So let's see what mobile's doing to this pattern. Well, this orange line here represents the sort of pattern of mobile traffic across hours of the day, and you can clearly see it's picking up where desktop drops off. You can see here it picks up from around 5 o'clock in the morning and sort of peaks around 8-9 o'clock. Now this is people checking jobs over a bowl of breakfast on the way to work. Again, at times that they wouldn't have access to a desktop and would never normally be capturing them. So it's quite interesting to see that pattern. Then sort of drops off a bit, picks up around 11 o'clock. No doubt people are at work, realising they hate what they're doing and they want to try and find another job. So we see that slight peak there. And then it sort of averages off until about 5 o'clock, where it peaks up again around sort of peak commuting hours. And we see another spike again around 10 o'clock. Now this is when people are watching TV, they're searching for jobs, and possibly even they've gone to bed and they're just having a last check on their phone. So we really are engaging with mobile and desktop combined. We're now engaging with people pretty much across their entire day. So that level of engagement really is just invaluable. So what is it about mobile that is so popular for job seekers? Why do we think that job seekers seem to be reacting so well to the mobile stuff that we have? Well, essentially there's four drivers, and there's a bit of crossover between all of them, but accessibility and convenience are sort of the two ones. You know, you're not chained to a desk. A desktop, you know, you need to be plugged in, powered in, you have to switch it on and power it up. So it's a lot more convenient with mobile. You literally reach in your pocket, take it out, it's in the palm of the hand, and it's just really, really simple and easy to use. And privacy is probably the biggest thing. Mobile device is a very personal device, and so is job hunting. So your privacy and freedom elements, you know, nobody's snooping, nobody's looking over your shoulder, you're looking for jobs. Gone are the days of accidentally printing your CV at work. So it really does have that element of privacy, which lends itself well to the sensitive issue of looking for a job. And freedom as well. It's very common now for big companies and organisations to set up firewalls and restrict access to certain sites, such as Facebook and a lot of recruitment sites. So this allows people at times that they would normally have access, they can just reach to their mobile phone and start looking and applying for jobs. So those are the sort of the four key drivers that we feel explain why mobile lends itself so well to the recruitment process. So should your business go mobile? Where do you even start? Well, before you even start, you should ask yourself these four questions. Have you checked what mobile traffic you're currently getting? What devices are being used to access your site? Do the results demonstrate a demand? And how does my site look on a mobile? Am I happy for users to see it like this? But rather than just telling you these questions you should be asking yourself, I'm going to take you through how you can go about finding the answers. So let's start with the last point. How does your site look on a mobile? The obvious answer to this is that you can just grab your mobile phone out of your pocket and have a look on your phone, which is definitely a great exercise, and I recommend everyone does it. Obviously the drawbacks are that your device is likely only represents a fraction of the devices that are out there, and you're unlikely to test things like load times, script issues, and so on. So here I'm going to just talk about there's 3 free tools out there, so it doesn't cost you a penny to use. You can use it right now and it takes seconds to get results. Gomez.com and Ready.mobi are great tools for instantly seeing how compatible your current site is with mobile. They're essentially very similar tools, both of them. Gomez gives you sort of a more basic visual illustration of things like page weight, how long it takes to download, and a sort of an overall score of how effective your site is likely to be on mobile. Ready.mobi, I think, is probably a slightly better tool to use, only because they give you far greater detail. It's not as sort of easy to understand the data, so it is for the more sort of techie kinds, but it gives you everything. It gives you ratings based on not only the download times that it would take, but also what it's likely to cost your users in data when accessing your site, how long pages are likely to take in loading via Wi-Fi access, 3G or standard GPRS, and it also tells you about any script issues and errors, so you can very quickly see whether your site fares well on mobile. So those are 2 great tools to use. Now the other one you may have heard of, it's actually quite an old tool, it's been around for a while now, is Google Mobilizer, and you can see the URL there is google.com/gwt/n. Now effectively what this is if there's a website that isn't mobile friendly, you can simply place the URL in this tool, click go, and it strips out all the heavy images, any sort of scripts that are likely to cause any issues. I'm not suggesting you use this as an alternative to producing a mobile site, but this is a great tool when starting to think about what your mobile site should include. So put your URL on there, see what Google strip out, and that should give you an idea of the things you should forfeit, possibly think about graphics that you don't need, or certain scripts or issues, and what you should focus on. That's a very sort of basic start, but it's quite a handy tool, you know, if you really are starting from scratch. So next one, is there a demand? Well, how can you find out? Now, I'm sure many of you, or all of you, should have some kind of reporting or analytics on your site. And for the purpose of this presentation, I'll talk about Google Analytics, purely because it's probably the best free analytic reporting tool out there. Now, Google, about 2 years ago, released a fantastic addition to their analytics, and that was the inclusion of mobile reporting. Now, this will tell you how much traffic is coming to your main site via a mobile device, and it can tell you by device type and even down to the network that's being used. So when you have these analytics in front of you, there's 4 things you should look at, and I'll explain why. You should look at what percentage of visits come via mobile. Now, this is obviously important because instantly it will give you an indication of whether there's already a demand for you to have a mobile site. And if there is, you should very quickly obviously do something about it. Next one, what are the most popular devices accessing your website? This is an important question to ask if thinking about building an application. For example, you might decide to build an iPhone app, but actually realise when looking at your analytics that Android is the most popular platform, and therefore you're probably better off producing an Android application as you already have the users there. Or you may discover that iPhone is the most popular device, but the growth of Android has been so high that you should really start building for Android now in anticipation of it being a leading platform. You should look at how it's grown over the last 12 months. This is important for 2 reasons. Number one, it will kind of give you an indication of how high that volume of traffic is likely to be in 12 months from now. But also, if your current traffic levels are quite low, this should give you an idea of what kind of level you'll be dealing with in a further 12 months and the work you should be doing now to prepare for that demand. Another thing to look at, but it's probably not as important, but it's a good indication, is look at the bounce rate on your mobile, so from your mobile visits compared to the desktop. Now, bounce rate is basically users that hit your website and leave the page without clicking any links or following through to any other pages. There's several reasons why this happens. Either users visit your site, they see exactly what they want on the first page they hit, which is great, and then they leave, which is fine. The second one is people might visit your website and realise they didn't mean to go there, or they don't want to be there, so they leave. And thirdly, they may get to your site, the user experience might be absolutely awful, so they just leave straight away. And this is sort of what you want to look out for. So because there's so many variables, that's why it's important to rather compare the bounce rate from your desktop to your mobile. The closer you can bring those numbers together, the more consistent the user experience is obviously between your desktop and your mobile site. So that's a good thing to look at. So you've now looked at your analytics, you've looked at the devices that are being used, and you want to decide, well, what do? Do you build an app or a mobile site? Or both? Well, let's look at a brief look at the pros and cons. There's obviously a lot more detail to this, but I'll just brush on what the pros and cons are of each. Applications often add extra functionality, like push notifications. Push notifications are essentially alerts that you can send to a user even when they're not using your application. So, for example, a job seeker may shortlist or ask for job alerts for a certain type of job, and when those jobs become available, we can essentially push a notification to that job seeker saying this job's now available. They'll click it, the application will open and display them the job. So that kind of stuff isn't quite there yet for mobile. For just a mobile site, obviously you can look at SMS type functionality, but the benefit of push notifications is that they're completely free. Faster loading times and offline content. Well, because it's a built-in application, you're running software locally on the device, so loss of signal won't affect you using the site. Obviously, if you plug into a live database like a vacancy search, then signal is affected by it. And ultimately, the cool factor, it's still very cool for a business to have an application. It's a great marketing tool and a great PR tool, so there is that cool factor there. So what are the negatives of an application? Well, often they're costly to build. sort of more so in iPhone app development, it still requires a very specific skill to build iPhone applications, and that development market is still quite niche, so often you have to outsource, and it can be very costly to build, because essentially you have to rewrite scripts. You can't really reuse a huge amount from your current site. It's starting from scratch. The approval process, now this is more relevant to Apple, but essentially when you build an application, it's not a case of just putting it live and it being out there straight away. Apple have a set of strict guidelines that you have to follow, and then it takes roughly about a week to 2 weeks for your application to be approved. And obviously you run the risk of your app being rejected and you have to go back and recode. But also, this is not just a one-time thing. Anytime you want to update your application, you have to go through the same approval process, so the results aren't as immediate. There's a limited user base. If you build an iPhone application, you've instantly alienated the rest of the smartphone market, as you just essentially produced an application that works for iPhone users. Well, you've got your Android users out there on a really popular platform. The new Windows 7, which is likely to grow in popularity now that they've had an agreement with Nokia. So it really does limit the users you reach, and the chances are, if you decide the application route is the only route you want to go, you should then consider building applications for the popular devices. But then you've got more areas to manage as well, and discovery is a big issue as well. People are unlikely, if searching through Google and visiting your site, they're unlikely to know that you have an application, and even if they do, they still have to visit the App Store, download the application, install it, and then run it. So it's a lengthy process. So what's the alternative? Well, you can build a mobile site or a web app, which is another sort of popular type site, and I'll go into that in a minute. But mobile sites and web apps are much cheaper and quicker to build. Essentially, the skills that a regular web developer has to build a desktop site can easily be translated to building a mobile site. There's pretty much the same skills you use. So if you have in-house developers, the chances are they can quickly adapt their skills and build you a mobile site. And often it's more sort of front-end changes, so there's no need to recode. It's just essentially creating a skin for your site that's mobile friendly. There's a far greater user base. By building a mobile site, your service will work across every single smartphone that's out there. So you're instantly making yourself accessible to all smartphone users. You can instantly make changes with no approval process. It's not the App Store, so it opens you up to doing a lot of user testing and really sort of tweaking things and releasing updates at any moment. And greater discovery via search engines. Google have shown that 50% of Android users actually start their activity with a search. So people are still using search engines to find what they're looking for. Not only that, but all the effort and time you've put into SEO, search engine optimization, and any sort of AdWords that you buy, all that will benefit your mobile site, because essentially people will click to see your main site. Technology can discover whether they're on a mobile, and then you serve them the mobile site. So all that effort you put in will benefit you and keep bringing traffic to your site. Now, obviously, the negatives of a mobile site is they don't work offline. They're a website at the end of the day, so if there's no signal, you can't use them. And there are some functionality drawbacks. For example, push notifications aren't supported. But contrary to popular belief, a lot of functions that people think are just purely possible for applications are actually possible with mobile sites. Geolocation, for example, is a feature that is now supported on mobile sites. So without a user doesn't actually have to input their location when they're searching for a job, they can just push a button and instantly, depending on the phone's hardware, it can pinpoint where the user is there and then and place that as their location. Also, another sort of misconception is that mobile sites and web apps can't look as sexy as an application and don't have the user experience of an application. Well, that's simply not the case, and I'll go into that detail now. There's some great tools out there that will help you produce a mobile site, and one of them is a free code base called JQTouch, and this is a plugin for the jQuery. Now, this demonstration you see on the left here, this isn't an application. This is in fact a mobile site. Users can save it as an icon to their phone. It offers full animations and great functionality. You can actually build application type things like clocks, notepads. It's really good. So it offers you full app style usability, and more importantly, it's cross-platform compatible. JQ Touch, for example, currently works on iPhone and Android, so that's your two biggest markets covered. And I wouldn't be surprised if they'll be releasing functionality soon for Windows 7 platform as well. And you can see here, this is showing you a to-do application, and this is it's a mobile site, so it's not an application. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't build an iPhone app, but tools like this could be great as an extension of a basic application. For example, on Jobsite, our application is actually a fairly simple application. Yes, it offers you great search, adding to shortlist, geolocation, all that great bit of functionality. But when it comes to the complicated stuff like handling the application, we actually take users to our mobile site. Now, users are pretty much unaware that they've been taken out of the application because it loads within a browser of the application, and they can start using Jobsite that way and apply for jobs. And as mentioned earlier, it's actually proving to be very successful with a high application rate going on. So you could build a basic application, so with very little investment you can build an app, you can have that App Store presence, and then once the user loads the app, you can actually run your JQ Touch site within that application quite simply. So to conclude the presentation, check your analytics data for mobile access. Check your website on your mobile phone and ask yourself these questions. Do people want my service via mobile? Can I improve the customer experience using mobile? Should I do it now? And which first? iPhone, Android, Windows, or mobile site? Thank you for your time.